goddamn right.
Altered Carbon is currently available to stream on Netflix, all 10 episodes, and this is basically a sci-fi murder mystery noir, very Blade Runner-esque show that I guess the main selling point of it is that the world that Altered Carbon takes place in, people can't die, at least proper death is it's much more rare, because there are these little chips that are implanted into your neck when you're born, they're called stacks, and whenever you die, they just take the stack out of your body, they put it into another body, and then boom, you're alive again, unless you have your stack blown out, which is why whenever you're threatening someone in this world, you put a gun to their neck and not their head, which is a nice little detail. There are quite a few nice little details in this show, and going into Altered Carbon, all I expected was a decent mystery and, you know, some nice action scenes and, of course, the great visuals, which the trailers showed off, because, to be honest, all I really expected was a Blade Runner ripoff. And on a technical level, this show is great. Visually, this might just be at least top 5 of the best-looking TV shows I've ever seen. The cinematography here is brilliant, the CGI is brilliant, the blending of practical effects and CGI is absolutely incredible. The world is so well realized, and it really does feel lived in. The action scenes are brilliant. I mean, for a TV show, these are like some of the best. All of the different action scenes stand out. There's this great action scene in the elevator. I mean, as far as elevator fight scenes go, this one is a very unique one. I mean, all the action scenes would look perfectly normal in a big budget Hollywood movie. So I think I've made it pretty clear that on a technical level, this show is brilliant. But what about story? What about characters? Well, they're pretty damn great as well. Altered Carbon tells this incredibly fascinating story, and it has some really, really cool themes and messages that it tries to explore, like what it means to be human, but it does it in a different way from Blade Runner, because obviously, you know, in Blade Runner you have robots, right? Whereas there are AI in Altered Carbon, but it's more about when you change bodies, how much of you is actually left, and, you know, and how much the body actually means. And it's really interesting, and the actual story itself I'll talk a bit more in just a bit, but the main sort of story, the setup for the show is that this guy called Takeshi Kovacs is brought back to life after 250 years of sort of prison sentence, and he's put in this body and he has to solve a murder, and that's just on the surface. I don't want to get into any spoilers because I do think it's best if you go into the show knowing as little as possible. But that central mystery is just a small part of a very, very big story, which is very, very interesting. And again, I'll talk in just a bit. But I guess we should just talk about the characters and the actors first. So the main character, Takeshi Kovacs, is played by Joel Kinnaman. And this has sort of caused some controversy because, you know, the character originally is part Asian and he's being played by a white guy, and so a lot of people have been complaining about this, and I have to say that for an Asian, it's not that bad. They do a really good job of not making it awkward, not making it like a big thing. And the show as a whole is incredibly diverse. The entire cast is very diverse. In fact, only like 2 or 3 of the main characters are white. And so it's great to see other cultures being represented in this show. And the main character himself, who is, you know, played for the most part by Joel Kinnaman, is great. I was a bit worried because, you know, Joel Kinnaman, who is normally a good actor, was previously in Suicide Squad and he wasn't very good. But here, he's great. And on the surface, he's just this big, brutish badass. But there are certain moments, and this whole episode where you learn the backstory of these characters, and it's just done so well. And I think that Altered Carbon does a really good job of getting these, you know, certain character stereotypes and not making them stereotypes and making them unique and new. Like, for example, the character of Ortega, who's probably, I would say, the second most important character. She could have come off as really annoying, but no, I mean, the actor is really, really great, and she sells the role really well, and she's a badass, and she's very strong, but never annoying. However, I have to say, though, that a personal favorite of mine was the character of Poe. I'm not going to say too much, but those of you who have seen the show will agree with me that he's great, and those of you who haven't, well, you have something to look forward to because Poe is a brilliant character. A lot of the other characters I can't really talk about without spoiling the show, so I'm not going to, but all the acting here is great. Now, I would say that I have one slight issue with Altered Carbon, and that is the third act. Once the villain is revealed, once the main villain is revealed, I believe in episode 8, kind of loses a bit of steam and it becomes very generic and predictable. Episodes 1 to 7 are great. I mean, so great. And although episodes 8, 9, 10 are super well directed and super well acted, the plot and, you know, some of the reveals and all that do feel very, very predictable. For example, there's this one subplot that's been going on since the very beginning about a girl in VR, and that basically wrapped up exactly how I thought it would. So my biggest problem would be that that third act is slightly weak and slightly predictable, and it goes from being a very thought-provoking, action-packed, entertaining, badass show to something a little bit more predictable and something that we've seen quite often nowadays. So to conclude, I would say that Altered Carbon is a show that you definitely need to watch. Visually, it is stunning. The action scenes are some of the best I've seen in TV, or in films really. I mean, some seriously good stuff here. The acting is great. Although there are certain storytelling elements that didn't really work towards the end, all the mystery towards the beginning is really, really good, and the ending, although fulfilling, does leave some opportunity for a second season, but not to the point where it's like, oh, it's just a setup, it's really overbearing. It's not. The ending is actually quite fulfilling, but it's just that third act I wish could have been a little bit better. Also, I have to say that once this main villain is revealed, it all connects so damn perfectly to the point where you're like, it's unrealistic. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen a film called Minority Report, Steven Spielberg, Tom Cruise, very good film. But there's this one scene where Colin Farrell's character stumbles upon this evidence and he calls it an orgy of evidence. I mean, like, it's too good to be true. And that's how I felt about how they sort of wrapped up this mystery. And within the context of this world, it just felt way too convenient. But aside from that, I highly recommend you watch this show, and I'm going to give it an A-. Guys, thank you very, very much for watching. I've been pumping out quite a few videos lately. I've still got some more video essays that I've done. And of course, the Oscar videos, Black Panther coming out. It's a great time right now. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. Thank you.